I'm David Hunt, and welcome to The Art Hunter. My guest today, and he's a friend, so believe me, there'll be lots of digs at each other, I'm sure. Originally from New Zealand, and we won't hold that against him. He went into a studio in New Zealand in the early days, and all of a sudden he was hooked. That was it. Seeing one of his favourite bands, I might add, because there's always been the music industry involved. Spent time in London with the BBC and LWT, and then ended up in Melbourne, going back through New Zealand because he had to, he's from there, and then joined Renegade Productions, and 9 years he was part of RocKwiz as executive producer. Of course he was, and what a legendary show that is, and of course it's toured extensively, but there might be a little surprise at the end of this interview that we'll be chatting about as well. MusoStream, what the hell is that, and where did it all come from? We'll be chatting a lot about that because he's a man that moves with the times. Peter Bain Hogg, hello and welcome.
Thanks, David.
So, New Zealand.
Yes.
How did you worm your way into that first studio?
Well, it was out of school, straight out of school.
Right.
My careers advisor said, I think you should look for a job in the media. And he said, look, the NZBC, the ABC equivalent, we're taking some technical trainees. Why don't you think about that? And he actually said, you can either be in front of the camera or behind the camera.
Right.
And I went, no, I'll be behind the camera, thanks. So that's what I did. Went in there, and it was a fantastic apprenticeship at that time. They made us do 3 months in a variety of television and radio related areas. So there was 3 months.
Because they had both, did they?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it, as I said, like the ABC. So
yeah.
Spent 3 months as a panel operator in a radio station. I spent 3 months on a remote location, turning on the radio transmitters every morning, and being able to play my own music as test music before 5 o'clock before 6 o'clock when the station opened, and then eventually, through mechanical workshop and various engineering and outside broadcast and various things, I ended up in the TV studio on day one, literally, as you said, my favourite band being recorded, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm here, and I'm not moving. And my career has really been at that nexus of television and music pretty much ever since. Yeah. Sort of wending either way.
So, as so many New Zealanders and Australians do the big hike over to London, with your background, that's how you got into the BBC? Yeah.
I some friends of mine, we all decided that we would try to go overland from Christchurch to London.
Right.
And we effectively did with one flight. The only flight that we took was from Bangkok to Kathmandu because you couldn't fly from, you couldn't drive through Burma. So we did it that way.
How long did it take?
9 months.
Right, wow. What an experience, Peter.
Yeah, it was incredible. And it was, did the classic, buy the combi in Kathmandu and drive it to London.
Yeah.
So I did that, and one of the guys that we picked up on the way was a film editor, and he'd been working at London Weekend Television, and he said, when we get back, I'll hook you up, and as you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And so he got me in the door there, and before, I just took the first job that I could, and it was as a videotape librarian. So I was unpacking videotapes, massive 2-inch videotapes, and storing them and getting them out for the next day's transmission, etc. So, and then from there, I had a lot of free time. So I was able to go and explore the London Weekend Television studios, and there were shows like, there was a show called Supersonic that was being made at the time. Yeah. And so I was able to go and be on the set for that and see how they did that and compare that to what I'd been doing for the past 4 or 5 years in music TV on shows like that. And from there, I did a few other things in London, and then my wife got pregnant. We went back to New Zealand, and then after that, I went back to New Zealand. Kind of got restless. It was very much back in the small town in a way. Loved it.
Yeah.
And I had a good job, but I'd gone very much for an administrative job. It was one of those things where, going back to New Zealand, I wanted to do one thing, but the only thing that was available was more administrative. So I did, and then I after 2 or 3 years, the number of events happened, and I thought, you know what, getting a bit restless, getting a bit bored, need a bigger city, and opportunities came up over here. Thought I'd take a holiday, came over here in 1980.
Yeah. And worked in the music industry with promoters, like famously with Michael Gudinski being one of them, because you ended up, working with him on Night Moves.
Yep.
Lee Simons,
Yep.
Fronted it.
Yep.
That was a big step too, was it?
Yeah. Well, what happened was in the mid '80s, I ended up working with Glenn Wheatley before I worked with Michael. And Glenn was the director of a company called Video Classics, video distribution in those days was massive.
Yep.
And he said, look, we're going to get into music video distribution, and I need somebody to manage that business. Job was in Sydney, so I went to Sydney for just on a year. And one of the first things that they said was, okay, we've got this catalogue from Vestron, and one of the things in it is making Michael Jackson's Thriller. And at that time, the video industry was very much a hire business. So the distributors were sending videotapes out to libraries and for $100 each, or approximately, and people would go and hire them, and 20 hires later they get their money back. The shops would get their money back.
Yeah.
And so Video Classic said, okay, we're thinking that we should get into selling videos cheaper, like same price as a record. And I went, right, well, okay, so making Michael Jackson's Thriller. Michael Jackson is going to clean up at the Grammy Awards, 1984, and of course he did. So I said, let's make the release date the next day for the Making Michael Jackson's Thriller, take a big campaign, and sell it in store. So we did, and it was the first sell-through video at $39.95 in Australia.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
So
and then from that,
yeah.
What happened was I was back in Melbourne for a weekend, and a friend of mine called up and said, Michael wants to see you. And I went, what about? I said, you better go and see him, because you don't say no. And he said, look, I want to get into video distribution as well. He said, I think that we can do something here. So we did, and we did Cold Chisel's Last Stand, we did A Monumental as Anything, and 3 or 4 others, and there were other stories about the ones that got away, but those were the kind of the big ones. And then as well as that, so I became the general manager of Wired Productions, which was the TV company.
Yep.
And we had Night Moves, as you said, and Stereo Video Show, and a few other kind of things as well. So
what was it like working with Michael? Because legend, such a legend in Australia, the music industry, and he was so forward thinking that he wanted to do, move into video, like have those TV shows. Like his insight was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was incredible. I mean, he was the real deal, without a doubt. He was, he was out at every gig. He was so enthusiastic about music. But if he didn't like a band, he'd walk straight out. He wasn't there to pussyfoot around. He was only there for the good ones.
Yeah,
and he knew he had great taste.
Yeah.
So he was amazing to work with, really.
Then all of a sudden you we've got a like-minded friend who was working on Steve Vizard's Tonight Live. You ended up there. Back in the total 5-night a week variety show. Yeah, which is I got to a point with the music industry where I thought
I'm 40 now. I'm getting too old for this. Stupid. So I started looking around, and that opportunity came up at Tonight Live. So I went there as one of the segment producers on Tonight Live. That was a great deal of fun for a couple of years.
Yeah.
18 months, whatever it was.
Right.
The last gasp of Tonight Live, really.
Yeah, yeah. Which was a great show. Like they copied Letterman, as everyone openly knew, but that's what Australia Television did.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you got involved with this production company with a little show that's over our shoulder, a TV show. Was on SBS and filmed down at the SB just down the road here. What was that called?
That one was RocKwiz.
Ah,
yeah, RocKwiz. Yeah.
9 years?
No, 16.
16?
Well, no, hang on. Let me get this right. We did our first pilot at Chapel Off Chapel in 2002 with Brian Nankervis as the host and Rebecca Barnard as the kind of the assistant. The band was the same. It was James Blake, Peter Luscombe and Mark Ferry. Ella Hooper and Stephen Cummings were the two guests on our pilot. We shopped that around to everyone. Nobody wanted it.
How many times do you hear that, Peter?
Oh.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? And
it is really.
And it's often, because the rest is history with it. You must go to those people. Look what we pulled it off. It's so never give up. People is the key.
That's it. That's it. Don't give up. So we eventually SBS had a change of management. We'd already taken it there, but we took it back, and they went, "Yeah, this looks pretty good. Need to do a few things."
How long? How long between?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So 2004 was when it was officially commissioned, and the first episode went to air in January 2005.
Yeah.
And then we were on air for 11 years. So 2016 was the last.
Yeah.
The last episode to go to air.
Yeah, and there was Spicks and Specks on the ABC, similar but not the same, because this one was a lot more grungier, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, there is a story there about that, because we did take it to the ABC and they said, "Oh, we love this. This is fantastic."
Oh, is this a bit of controversy here? Is
well.
You're hearing it first here, people.
I don't know if it's
Come
first,
on,
but you're
speak
definitely
up.
hearing it. No, we took the ideas to the ABC. We took this VHS cassette. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, this is great. We'll push this up the line." And eventually, I got a call from one of the ABC commissioners who said, "Look, we've just commissioned a quiz show called The Einstein Factor. We don't really need another one right now. But if we ever need a music trivia quiz show, we'll call you." Didn't hear anything, of course, so continued the negotiations, or started the negotiations with SBS, and we were literally pen over paper when I got a call from a producer friend at the ABC who said, "I've just come out of a meeting and they want a music trivia quiz." And I went, "What? Are we back on?" And he said, "Not really."
Oh.
And I went, "What?" And he says, "Well, I've got to create something that's 180 degrees away from what you're doing, so the two will never be compared." And I went, "You've got to be joking."
Yeah.
Anyway, theirs was on air about a month after ours.
Right. Oh, that's soon.
Spicks and Specks was on after we started.
Yep.
And Spicks and Specks was maybe even a couple of weeks. It was pretty tight.
Yeah. But they were very different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
We always characterised it as Spicks and Specks was a comedy show about music, and RocKwiz was a music show that was occasionally funny.
Although the two hosts are crazy funny people, and proven it time and time again down the track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last episode went to air in 2016, and we started in 2010 taking it on the road and doing live shows around the live and festival shows, and that's been very successful.
Yep.
We're in fact...
Well, you even in Adelaide at the Cabaret Festival.
Did Cabaret Festival a couple of times.
Yeah.
And we're in fact back there this weekend.
Okay.
In Adelaide, this weekend,
right.
at the Theberton. And then...
or the Barton, as some people
call it. The Barton, yes. And then we've got three or four other shows towards the end of this year as well, finishing in Sydney on December the 3rd at the State Theatre.
Right, okay. We might come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, like COVID hits, there's, like the federal government put up their hand to make it look as if they were caring about the arts. And RISE came out of it, where you had to apply for grants. Like it would have been so tough writing that grant, because we all know grant writing is the most tedious, drawn out. You were successful.
Yeah, we were very lucky. The RISE grant scheme was a fantastic initiative, really.
But some of the weirdest people got it.
They did, but I'm happy that we were one of the weird people that got it.
So am I.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Because we put, our application was, okay, so if you're going to, if the idea is to put money into the music industry, why not put money into recording some of these acts who cannot work because of pandemic restrictions? Venues were shut. They couldn't work live, so why don't we put them in a studio, which we will make in the loading bay of the lighting and staging company that was one of our partners.
Because they lost all their work.
They couldn't do anything. There were no events for them to work on. So we set up this stage in there, and over a 9-week period, we rolled through 3 acts a day, 3 days a week, an hour recording session. So, they were in and out in 2.5 hours.
What was it called?
MusoStream.
Right,
okay.
MusoStream, yeah, good. How long did it take you to come up with that name? Because I'm sure you would have gone weeks. You would have gone round and round. Like, how do we do it? How do we spell it? And all that.
Well, you've got to make these things Google proof.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing. And that was the same with RocKwiz as well. It's like, okay, so put that into Google. Any other reference? No, we'll have that.
Yeah.
And that was why the MusoStream name is, you put MUUZO into Google, and that's what you're going to get.
Right.
You're going to get us.
And what did that mean to the artists? Like, what was the feedback that you got?
Well, it was incredible, really. I mean, nobody could work, so it gave them the opportunity to feel like they were on a stage, giving a performance like this, but nobody in the audience, but just a bunch of cameras.
Yep. And you were allowed to do it because it's a service to people watching it at home on Channel 31.
That's right. We could get work permits for everyone. It's work and travel permits, because we were working on a program, working on a live TV show or a TV show that, we could work around that.
Yep.
So we did. And look, the artists were tremendously grateful, pretty much all of them.
Because you were paying them.
We were paying them, good money.
And there was no other money coming in.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
So we were paying them well, and they came along and they were able to perform it. And a lot of those performances are really great because there was a lot of that energy there, that kind of bottled up energy that they had because they hadn't been able to play live, and here was this opportunity. So bang, they'd go, and the energy was really great. And so many of the recordings, and some of them were very emotional afterwards because they'd been able to perform and hadn't previously. So it was a really gratifying experience, albeit for me it was a little bit of it was a bit of a, I don't know what the right word is, wank? No, I shouldn't say that. It was, look, for me it was great because...
You've shocked me by using that. Really?
Well,
please explain.
Well, in a way, it was, okay, we've got this opportunity, so who are the bands that I would like to see?
Yeah.
So they were all performing to me. I was the only one in the audience. I had a crew. Right, so it's like, okay, who do I really want to see? Who's available? Who do I want to see? Who are the acts that could really do with some cash, as opposed to, the bigger names. You're not going to chase bigger names because they're pretty well looked after either by themselves or by their record companies or by whoever. But it was those acts, those kind of middle acts that were struggling.
Yeah. Name a few.
Jazz Party, Sex on Toast, Cooking on 3 Burners, Hugo Race, Dave Graney,
Great variety. Great variety.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing too.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be a great variety. So from solo acoustic folk acts like Gabriella Cohen and Ben Mastwick to Black Jesus Experience, for instance. Folk Bitch Trio, lots of really great acts.
And so at the end of it all, and they're all available on YouTube now to check.
Well, they're not on YouTube. They're all on the Channel 31 CTV Plus website.
Okay,
yeah.
Brilliant.
Streaming off that.
And so it's really like what you did. You must sort of look at yourself and think, yep, that was all worth it.
Oh yeah,
and all the hard work to get that grant, as we know, and then choosing and the difficulty on staging it because it was a bit rocky at the beginning, which we don't need to know. But like congratulations on
Thank
that
you.
because it was something really smart and clever to do. In a really hard time, and you were supporting the music industry and the people filming it, and so like good on you.
Yeah, thanks. So it was. I'm really proud of the initiative and the fact that we were able to get the money, and I'd love to be able to continue it if the Rise grant is actually reactivated.
So that's totally gone now, the Rise.
No, there's some money that's still left there, but I think
because you did go after more and you didn't get it, didn't you?
Yeah. The federal government are, I think, reevaluating their cultural policy, and some announcements will probably be made before the end of the year, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. For those people out there that think, well, I don't know much about a grant, but would it be something that I could do, musicians or like actors, cabaret performers and whatever, like how hard is it? Because like I've put my toe in the water a couple of times and had no success on getting a grant, and it's disheartening, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've done quite a lot of it, and a lot of it through Renegade as well, where you're working with various government agencies, whether at the time it was the Film Finance Corporation or Screen Australia or whatever. When you're going for money to top up the funding of a feature film or a television series or whatever, there's a lot of hoops that you've got to go through. There's a lot of stuff that you've got to do, but it actually sharpens your thinking about what the process is. Okay. So it's all very well to say, I've got this great idea, I'll apply for a grant, but then you've got to do it. And as you are filling out the grant, you're going, yeah, I can do this, or maybe I shouldn't put that.
So it really makes you think is the key here, isn't it, Peter? Yeah.
It makes you think, and it makes you prepare, and it makes you really look at every dollar, because you've got to put dollars to everything as well, and they require budgets for every line item. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then you've got to get the support, so there's a lot of letters of support that have to be done as well. Yeah,
and because they can't make it too easy, because everyone would just be doing it, and like the money would run out quickly. So like they make you jump through hoops, but hoops that you need to jump through, because it's a realization of what you are going to be spending the money on, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Very, very, very smart, but also very hard. But also through that period, you and one or two mates bought this record collection. Tell us about that. And
well, that happened just before the pandemic hit. It was December 2019, and saw a post on Facebook, Dave Larkin, in fact, that put up a post saying that there was somebody who died that left 3 storage units full of records.
Wow.
Did anyone know anyone that wanted to look at them? So I called up my mate Neil Wedd, and I said, we should go down and have a look at this. So we were literally there the following morning at 9:15 15.
Were you the only ones there, or other people?
We were the first.
Right,
I don't
okay.
know if anyone else expressed any interest, but we were certainly the first. And the guy opened up these things and we went, oh my God. And it was just a treasure trove of vinyl, not particularly well stored, but there was
what condition?
A lot of it was fairly good. It was the collection came from a guy called Doug Grant, who was reasonably well known in the kind of collector circles around town, but he was a little bit I don't know what the right word to use here.
I'm going to
is,
throw
David.
anal. No, he wasn't anal. He wasn't.
He was a little bit, but he would do things like on rare records, on a lot of the records, he would make notes on the records themselves.
On the covers.
On the covers.
Right.
Not always a good idea. So he would cross out spelling mistakes on record covers. He would go, this is actually 2 minutes 39, not 2 minutes 36.
That's he's anal. He's anal.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. So we took another storage unit at the facility and basically took everything out of these three and combined them into one, but lined them with, and as we were going through, we were kind of sorting them out and finding the gold amongst them. One of them was there were about 40 of these American top 40s. American top 40.
Oh yeah.
Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
And these were delivered to the radio stations, the syndicated radio stations at the time, as triple album box sets. So we've got all of these from radio stations, complete with all the liner notes and complete with all of Casey Kasem's intros and outros.
Wow.
And all of the jingles. And often those versions of the songs were special because they were short for radio.
Uh-huh.
They were shorter versions for
Yeah.
radio. So they're quite unique.
Yeah.
So there's a big collection of those, and we found a whole lot of other stuff. I think
they sold? You got rid of?
No, not those ones.
Why not?
I don't know.
They're a little bit too special.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're kind of waiting for some of them to turn over to the 50th anniversary of their release because we think that, well, that'd be a great birthday present for somebody who's turning 50. Here's the Casey Kasem American Top 40 in the week that you were born.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
Oh, okay, which is smart. Interesting concept.
Just a marketing trick. But a lot of the records were really, there's a lot came out of this 50s, 60s, 70s. There was a lot of rockabilly. There's a lot of 78s. There's a lot of equipment as well that we're still trying to get rid of. There were a lot of DVDs, collections of Star Wars, collections of Star Trek, all kinds of things.
Have you made money out of it yet?
You
have?
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant. And how did you sell them?
Through markets and online.
Okay.
So we've got a shop called Record, RECHOARD.
Oh, you love
I love the pun. I know, I love the pun. So it was a hoard of records, which is why we called it Record.
Yeah.
And we've got a Discogs shop, and that turns over a reasonable amount every week. And on Sunday we were at Box Hill Market, and that's a very Box Hill Town Hall. And that's a very big.
And you do it? You go along?
Yeah.
You enjoy it?
Yeah, it's good fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
so different to everything else you do.
Well, yeah, but it's still music.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to meet like-minded people who love their music, and So you meet some good people.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that you're doing that. Now, okay, we're coming back to that little TV show that and you've been out on the road with it a lot since it's not been running. Is it coming back on TV?
Yes.
Whoa! And is it SBS picking up?
No.
Because why did they drop it? Why would they want to move on from? And especially considering the ABC now are loving, bringing back Spits and Specs, and
it's doing incredibly well. I mean, Spits and Specs is the top-rating entertainment show in the country, I think. I mean, last time I looked, it had 800,000 viewers on a Sunday night. It might be close to RocKwiz, which is my other favourite quiz.
Right.
But no, we took after SBS basically said, look, we think that's about it. I think their main reason was that it was no longer on charter, and that they wanted more stories. They wanted to put their money more into stories and into entertainment.
Right. Okay.
So we were kind of straying off charter a little bit, and so we started talking to every other network and going around the,
circles
around the circles several times. Nothing happened. It was, we were out there having a great time live. The main problem with doing the live shows is that everyone goes, oh, it won't go, it'll be on TV, they'll record it for TV. And you go, actually, no, it's just for the people that buy the tickets. Because normally when we were at the ESPY, we didn't ever charge anyone to come in, because when you're in the audience for a TV show, you don't pay for the privilege of doing that.
Yeah. And there would be a lot of stopping, starting, and all that the audience have to put up with.
We generally in TV shows, yes, but in ours, we just
let it run.
Did it as a live show.
I love the idea of that.
We never stopped and started.
Yeah.
We just basically. Sometimes we'd, Julia or Brian would maybe just go, let's just pick that up, bang, we'd just continue on.
Yeah.
Very rarely did we record any of the songs twice.
Yep.
Few occasions.
I like that.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. So we were in and out. We used to do 2 episodes a night.
Wow.
When the show was half an hour. So yeah, and that's where we're back to now. Classic half-hour format for Fox 8 and Binge. And so classic half-hour, 2 guests. Each one comes out, does a song as the answer to the "Who can it be now?" question. Contestants plucked from the crowd. We've already got our contestants.
Okay.
Because we needed to go through that process first for approvals and everything. There's a lot of the process with Foxtel is a little bit different. Production process with Foxtel is a little different to what it was with SBS. So there's a more rigorous approvals process. But yeah, so it's exciting.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
That it's back on telly?
I'm really happy. I love making TV.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I do. It's
what
we do. But yeah, it was a big opportunity.
When is it?
It's going to be back on February, March.
Right, next year.
2023,
okay.
yeah.
Right, fantastic. Peter, there's so many other little aspects of your life that we could have spoken about. That'll do for now.
Okay. We didn't get to the plane.
Oh, let's get to the plane.
Yeah, all right. Can I?
Yeah.
You don't have to use it.
Yeah, no.
Let's get I love this photo because it was taken by the local press photographer who came down. That plane is a Piper Apache. That is 1959. I was 9 years old, and my friend Rodney Love, who was on the wing there with me, he was. We were together and we saw this plane flying around. It was the first twin-engine plane ever to land in Greymouth in New Zealand, which was where I was born and brought up.
Yep.
And so we jumped on our bikes and went down to the airport, which was probably a couple of miles away, and got there and this plane was landing and we started talking to the pilot and he said, "Do you want to go up?"
Whoa.
And we went, "Yeah." So we jumped in the plane, got up, flew around, saw everything. And then as we got out, the press had arrived to take the photo, and that's the photo that was printed in the paper.
And your parents didn't know?
My mum and my grandmother were my mum worked for the newspaper, so she saw the photo before anyone. Because they wouldn't be allowed to do that now. No.
Like take a kid up without permission from parents.
No.
That is hysterical.
Oh, it was great, but it was just a sense of adventure, and I had no trepidation about it. I'd spent years in planes before that. So,
right. Yeah.
So it was a lot of. It was just a fun thing to do.
And of the time, as we said, it couldn't happen now. Arriving there. Peter, Thank you so much for being
Pleasure.
on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks, David.
Thanks for watching. I'm David Hunt. You've been watching The Art Hunter, and we'll be back again next week. See ya.